Hey there, it is Friday afternoon, and I thought I would come out here and make a video just so I would get something productive done today. Okay? I ended off the last video, the one where I talked about Canada, and finished the cleaning up I was going to do, the tidying up. Mainly I cleaned the floor, because that's what I have to stay on top of out here, the stuff that gets on the floor. So I cleaned that up, and then I went back in, I worked on the plan some more, and I got to a point in the plan. This is the clamp plan, by the way, the long clamp that I talked about at the beginning of the last video. I got to a point in the clamp plan where I saw a major flaw in the design. Not in the design itself. Because, okay, when you're building something, when you're designing something that you're going to make plans for, you have to show ways to do things. This is the way I do things anyway, in the simplest way possible. And not only does that make building it easy, it also makes it easier for me to design. Now, part of the design problem, here I'll get this clamp because it's smaller. Part of the design problem with that was that the bar, the lead screw angles down to apply pressure to the pad against the bar to keep it parallel to the other jaw. Okay, I talked about this before. But then that's easy enough to look at and to see and say, well, yeah, it's angles down. But when you go to do that in practical terms, right, you need to know the angle here, which would be I determined that 5 degrees would be enough. So it's 5 degrees angling down there. And then it has to line up with that block over here as well, with the appropriate gap in between. And while I could, and I did, actually space all that out on the plan, I decided that it wasn't the best way to do it. So then I changed it back to this. And I said I'll add some stuff down here to make it stay parallel. Very much like a traditional, say, Bessie style parallel clamp. And I got partway into that, and I said this is going to be too bulky, and I'm trading one complexity for another. So I scrapped that, and I went back to the original design, and like I made a change. The change, you'll see the change when I make the thing. It's not a significant one, but what it does is it allows you to construct this part up here, which is the critical part, in this way, and then you tilt the whole thing. Rather than trying to drill everything on an angle, you just tilt that. And now I'm at the point where I'm a little bit sick of it. I gotta be honest. I gotta talk about like building stuff in general, right? Because I've been building stuff, making stuff my entire life. And for people like me that enjoy this kind of thing, it's not the product in the end that you're enthusiastic about. Yes, you want something that works and looks great and you can feel proud of. It's not that. It's very much like that. I guess it's the same thing for mountain climbers. If they, it's not getting to the top. Yeah, that's kind of like the point, but it's the climb. I enjoy the climb, okay? And I've already been to the top of this hill several times, so I don't know. It's hard for me to stay motivated on it, I guess you could say. But I'll have to press through because I got, part of the way in, and most of the way in, I should say, and I'm going to finish it. I also took one of these and did some experimenting with it. I tried various different things. This is the bar. The moving jaw is actually inside my house being glued back together. I actually pushed it to the breaking point to see where the failure point was. And I knew where the failure point would be to begin with, but nothing like actually physically confirming it. It's down here, this connection down at the bottom between the sides and this piece that goes across the bottom. the joint broke between them because there's a lot of pressure going up this way on the front of this part as the clamp goes back and pushes down on the back of the wedge back here. You know, it's trying to twist this way. So this is pushing up over here, and that's exactly where it broke. Now, with that said, the glue joints on these are not very strong because I used that glue that was contaminated. And I also didn't, like when you're filming it, that's the problem with filming it. You can wind up with less than ideal results. The glue joint was really starved for glue, actually, and might not have been clamped up properly. Anyway, it broke there, and I'm gluing it back together. So, the other things that I tried with this was I cut a piece of thin rubber. This is inner tube, bicycle inner tube. And I glued it onto one of these wedges to try that, to see how that would work. Because I had already tried this thicker rubber, and this works great. But, you know, bicycle inner tube, a lot easier to get than thicker rubber. So I tried that. Unfortunately, that does not work. The benefit of the thicker rubber is that it will not bunch up, you know, and in bunching up and stretching, the rubber inner tube will break away from the adhesive. I use epoxy to hold it on, and so it just released from that in places that were under the most stress, which basically right underneath here, you know, that part right there, it had started to release after one tightening. So, and you might notice there's a hole or a notch inside here. That's where I tried something else, a spring to use to keep constant forward pressure on the wedge as you, so, okay, the way this works is you have to have your finger, well, you have to push the wedge forwards for it to lock, right, before it'll tighten up. Whereas, you know, a better way would be to grab it anywhere because that would be more convenient, push it ahead and start tightening it up. However, you can't do that. You have to go and push the wedge in. You know, it's not that big a deal. And I think my pursuit of that taught me that. I mean, I'm trying to solve a problem that's not really that much of a problem or not worth solving. So I tried a couple of different things and they didn't work. So, you know, I can say the week is a write-off as far as not getting anything done. But I did answer a few questions that I had, or solved a few puzzles that I had, or, you know, steered me away from things that will not work or are not worth doing. Since I have such a nice background now, I thought I would turn the camera around and take advantage of that and finish up this one by talking a little bit about Canada again. I know in that video I probably came across as being very negative. I did say in the description that it is a great country to live in for a great number of reasons. Like the crime rate here is very low. The majority of the crime here, as far as I can understand, or what I see, is basically related to young people on drugs. Is they need money to buy the drugs, so they break into places or rob places. So, you know, there's not a whole lot of violent crime here. It's safe, in other words. It's safer than a lot of other countries. You know, I don't have to worry about coming out here to my shop because it's separate from my house, right? I don't have to worry about coming out here to my shop and locking the door behind me in the house, that someone's going to come and start carrying out all my, you know, my prized possessions while I'm out here, you know, talking to you guys. I don't have to worry about that, right? Several times I've forgotten to lock the shop overnight. It's not usually an issue, you know, it's not really an issue. The only reason why I would lock it, like I do lock it, is for peace of mind. I mean, once again, it's those young people. I'm not saying that any of those young people live in my area because I don't ever see any out around. But you never know. You know, better to lock it. Better to be safe than sorry, is what I say. So, low crime rate. You know, there are a lot of different things. I mean, employment here is not like it's not as good as it could be. But then that goes back to what I said. You know, everything economically could be a lot better if we had made a fundamental change, 100 years ago to try to break away from the pack. That was the basis of my, like what I was saying there. It's like seems like every democratic country is structured exactly the same way because nobody wants to try anything different. And it seems the more that we're entrenched in the status quo, the more likely it seems that it's going to stay that way. It seems like it's getting harder and harder to make any, foundational changes to the way things are going. And it's kind of disappointing, because I see so much opportunity here that's not being utilized. I mean, I talked, like on this channel, I talked about going and buying a piece of land, or I talked about buying a house and fixing that up. I mean, I'm not going to get into the details on every little thing that would be involved in that, but needless to say, there's a lot of nonsense in the way of you doing that. And when you do it, the rewards that you're going to get from that are kind of limited if you're already making, a decent living. Because that's where this punitive effect of the present government comes in. You're okay if you're not making anything. If you're making above a certain level, they're going to be wanting to take more and more of it. So why do it? I mean, I'm making more than enough to live off of. Why should I do that just to turn around and give half of it or more to the government? Some would say, well, that's your civic duty, John, to help support society. Well, I do my civic part, as far as I'm concerned, in supporting society by being a productive citizen. All right? I'm not draining money out of the system. I'm putting money into it. Not just in taxes, but I buy stuff. I mean, look around. I'm making money, but I'm spending money. And so are so many other people. They don't need to be additionally punished because they're making more money. In construction, you'd be talking to guys, and if there was some big push that needed to be done, and they had to work on or they didn't have to, but the option was there to work on the weekend. Well, they said, why come in when the government is just going to take it all? Okay, well, part of that is they didn't realize that they take it all right now, but then you get it back because of the withholding tax, right? But yeah, why bother working extra when it's just going to be taken away from you? And that's the opportunities that are being passed up here with the current system. And it's the same worldwide. I mean, everywhere that this kind of system is happening, that's what happens. You take away the motivation for people to be as productive as they possibly can be.
I cannot solve your problem, sir. Only you can. Yes, that's your answer. That's your answer to everything. Tattoo it on your forehead. Your revolution is over, Mr. Lebowski. Condolences. The bomb's lost. My advice to you is to do what your parents did. Get a job, sir.